The forever countdown. Welcome to New Day. Good morning, everybody. Sister, would you like to stand and testify, please?
I am so thankful that we are covered by the blood and covered by our God. I was, just to give you a little testimony, Brother Bennett and I, when we married, we made a pact that God's work would always be first. That meant Shell had to give up a few things because I was already there in one sense, but in other senses, that meant you had to give up stuff. And as we walked that road, there were times that, I will be honest, financially we looked at each other and go, do I take this job or do I go pass out food baskets at the church? And I don't know about anybody else, but for us, we would always go back to that promise. God, we promised you we would give you first fruits, and that means of our time. And so we came and we did food boxes, and then God would give us a job that more than made up for the finances that were out that one time. And I want to give God the credit for that, because it is God that did the providing. Like just February was a month of all of us know was snow and ice and everything. And our income went down to a third. And I will tell you, this woman started to worry, but then he reminded me, we put God first, God will take care of it. God made up for it in March. I tell you, he has blessed abundantly. And to God be the glory. It is only God that gives us not only financial blessings, but spiritual blessings. Those times that we have looked at each other and said, I'm not as cheerful today as normal, but you can always go to the Word, and that Word brings in that strength to you. And I just want to give God glory, because it is God and God alone that does it.
Thank you, sister. Thank you. You know what, Brother Bennett, why don't you pray for the service?
God, you are our Savior, God. Thank you, Lord, for your many blessings. Thank you that we can come into your house with those of our precious friends. Bless Brother Taylor as he brings your anointed word to us, God. Open our ears that we can hear, Jesus.
Once again, I am not Brother Clinton. For that, I am sorry. I did not kidnap him. He's back there. So, you can call off the search. We know where he's at. This morning, we are going to talk about stewardship. And the focus element is that wise management of our bodies, our talents, our treasure, and our time enables us to contribute to God's kingdom and our communities. So questions I want you to think about is, what do you value most? Your health, your money, your talents, or your time? Am I the only one that thinks that changes as life goes on? I think whenever you're young, you really put a high value on money. And at some point, your health starts to become a very important priority. And then at a different point in time, it's time. Just time. You start to understand why that person in your life that was later in their years just enjoyed sitting in certain people's company. If you would turn to Matthew chapter 25. This will be our main text for today. Matthew chapter 25, a very recognizable story for most of us. Starting in verse 14, Jesus speaking says, "For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, and to another 2, to another 1, and to every man according to his several ability, and straightway he took his journey. Now see, something that we always overlook is the master already knew something. He already knew that there was something about one servant that he could give him 5. He could give him more than double anybody else. And he already knew that there was one servant he could only give 1 talent to. But he was giving him an opportunity. There's something that he's done in the past that I can't give you 5 talents. But if I can just give you 1, please, when I come back, show me what you can do. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them another 5 talents. And likewise, he that received 2, he also gained other 2. But he that had received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money. And after a long time, the Lord of those servants cometh and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received the 5 talents came and brought the other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. And his Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. He also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. Why was there 3 servants? This is an example story. Why was there 3? Why wasn't there just a 5 and a 1? See, you have the servant with 5 had obviously already proven to be the most trustworthy of the servants. He gained 5 more. And so he could have been an example if he had taken 5 and not been profitable. He'd already been proven himself and remained faithful. We know where we're going with the servant that got 1. But why was there 2? There's 2 because I don't have all the talents that Brother Bennett has. You know, I can only do this over here. I can't do all of this. I can't teach as good as Brother Clint does. I can't preach as good as Brother Brent does. I'm not as good as that servant with the 5 talents. But understand that the master already understood that. He said, I can give you 2, and if you remain faithful, you can be profitable with just 2. I'm not going to hold you to a different standard. I know what talents I gave you. I know what gifts I gave you. I just expect you to be profitable with what you've been given. And that's why there's 3. And so, yes, he took his 2 talents and he used them. And his Lord did not treat him any different than he did the one with the 5. He said, you were faithful. Come on in. You did exactly what I expected of you. Verse 24, Then he which had receiveth the 1 talent came, and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man. He immediately tries to blame the master. Reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid, and went and hid thy talent in the earth. And lo, here thou hast what is thine. His Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathereth where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which hath the 10 talents. For unto every one that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But from him that hath not shall be taken even away that which he hath. And cast ye that unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. See, he makes his intentions very clear. He said, all you had to do is essentially put my money in the bank and get interest. That's all you had to do. But you literally refused to use it at all. You took what I gave you and refused to use it at all, knowing that I was coming back. Another question that I'd like you to think about today is, how would you be judged today in regard to how you are using your talents? Not everybody was gifted to sing. Not everybody was gifted to preach. Not everybody was gifted to teach. But God has given everybody something. There's many callings mentioned in the Bible. There's never a calling at keeping a chair from floating. So what has God blessed you with? And what does he want you to use? And are you using it? And I'm preaching at myself a little bit, because there's something that I know I have put off for a year and a half. And I still hadn't done it. And my wife knows exactly what that is. She ain't told on me yet either. God help us both if she does. Stewardship relates to the core of living abundant Christian lives. We have been blessed with talents from God. They're not arbitrary or accidents. They are God-designed and God-given. We must recognize the gift of our time, talent, treasure, and bodies, and dedicate ourselves to development and service in society and God's kingdom. 1 Corinthians chapter 6. It's not there. There we go. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and verse 19 says, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. Flies into the face of this world's beliefs, because they always want to say, it's my body, I get to do what I want. It's not. And while this was written to the church, remember that he died for everyone. So he purchased the price for everyone. But not everyone has bought into what he paid. But no person can just say, well, it's mine. It's all mine. You only have what you have because God has allowed it. 1 Peter 2 and 9. I think it slipped down. There we go. It says, but ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, an holy nation, a peculiar people. Ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. In order to glorify God with our bodies, we must realize that we are bought with a price. We must carefully and purposely consider how we treat our bodies, which are the temples of the Holy Ghost. We should take care of this gift of life God has given to us. This one we seem to struggle with a lot. As I would say, a general group of church people, we struggle with this one. We focus so much on the spiritual, we forget about the physical. And yes, again, I'm talking about myself as well. My wife does not like my previous mindset of you don't go to the doctor until you're dying. That's the way I grew up. You didn't walk into the hospital. They carried you into the hospital. But that's not how we're supposed to be. You're supposed to take care of ourselves. You know, and I heard a story back in the day when evangelists traveled the country. Part of their payment was the meal after church. And they would say that you could tell a good preacher by how large he was, because he was continually fed to keep him at the church. That's not the case anymore, but I think we've kept some things from that time. But no, we are, if you think about your body as the temple of God, and don't just focus on the fact that, yes, you must continually think about the Spirit and your spiritual welfare. Think of it like this. This is the instrument that God is using to reach the world. Your spirit has to be right, but he still has to use this body because it holds and houses yours and his spirit. So if you're not physically able to fulfill what he's called you to do, how can you be profitable? Yes, I need to lose some weight. I can still walk around, and I can still talk. I can still get out of bed in the morning. Well, most mornings. But yes, we have to think about those things. Are you doing certain things in your life that are keeping you from physically doing what God's called you to do? I'm having to pay for decisions I made 20 years ago. That's weird for me to even say 20 years ago, but yes. Of course, I wasn't thinking about it then. I saw a funny picture this week. It was a car and a guy sitting outside, and he was holding the motor of this car. And the caption said, "Now I've reached the point in my life where I see pictures and I remember my dad telling me one day you're going to regret that." And yeah, you did things people are like, don't do that. I know you're a teenager. I know you're in your 20s and you feel like you're bulletproof, and no, one of these days you're going to remember that day. Somebody said, "Don't pick that up." Don't go picking a fight with that guy. Don't go doing this. Don't go doing that. And at the time, oh well, I did it. I did it. Then 20 years later, like, yeah, I did it. But we must be conscious of what are we doing. Is everybody supposed to be ultra fit and some nutrition freak and all this stuff that has the world by storm right now? No. But we are supposed to be mindful. Be mindful. Let your moderation be known unto all men. Men, not every meal is a challenge. Not every car part and everything else is a challenge. But we must be mindful to expect that we're going to be serving God for the foreseeable future. You know, live like He could come tomorrow, but at the same point, live like you might go to 70, to 80, to 90, serving Him. Treat yourself so that you're not laying in bed going, Jesus, I wish I could get up right now and go to church. Because God gave us this temple, we have a responsibility to care for it. Not only are we made in His image, but we are reclaimed from sin. God creates all people, but believers are redeemed from sin. We must carefully and purposely consider how we use our bodies. We are expected to maintain the temples of our bodies. We should take care of this gift of life God has bestowed upon us. It is imperative that we take caution concerning the things we put in our bodies, the foods, the drinks, and the other substances and supplements. We should respect our bodies. We should not only respect them because they are gifts from God, but because they are made to house His Spirit and the very presence of God. If you're going to invite someone into your home for a special dinner, would you clean the inside to avoid embarrassment and to show the proper respect for the guest? Why wouldn't you treat your own body the same way to receive Him? We all have the choice to either use our bodies for self-gratification or to bless the Lord. True disciples have learned and are in the process of learning that their bodies are to be instruments in the hands of God. We are designed to let the glory of God shine through us. A commitment to the biblical stewardship means recognizing our bodies were created in His image and for His glory, and we should be treating them as such. Now, if you'll turn just over to 1 Peter chapter 4. And verse 10. As every man hath received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which God giveth, that God in all things may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. God has given us special talents. Since they are God-given, we should dedicate our abilities to God. He uses these gifts for His purpose to minister to others. So we talked about this just a little bit ago. What are the gifts, the abilities that God has given you? We focus so much on just a handful of things. And we don't think about the other useful things. And I told this to the teens every day, is like, not everybody's called to preach. And it's very hard to get some people to understand that. They feel the blessings of God, and they feel so good because they finally have something changing in their life, and they have been pulled out of God only knows what pit, and they immediately feel, because they feel the presence of God, I should be preaching. I need to be on the platform. I've got to be seen because I feel God, so I'm special. My experience has been that the dedicated, faithful people that usually weren't ever on the platform, but that truly lived the life, made the biggest impact on me. Seeing that person that came in every Sunday, every service, they prayed. Prayer. And you knew it wasn't the only time they prayed that week. They were dedicated. And they came in and they were faithful, and they were an example to the people around them how to live. Those are the people that I truly clung to. Not the person with the best voice. Not the people that were always speaking. That person that for some reason gets overlooked. But you found that any time the pastor or somebody in the church needed help, they were there. Without any recognition, without being paraded across the pulpit, they were there. Maybe just to mow a yard. Maybe to help fix something. Maybe to serve some other people. Those are the people that I truly wanted to fashion how I lived. Our talents and special abilities belong to God. We own nothing that He did not first give to us. God has entrusted us with the aptitudes and abilities to be good stewards. We must use these talents for God's glory and not our own. We must understand how God has gifted us and for what purposes. God has a place for each of us. He has something He wants us and me and you to do and to accomplish with these gifts. The trap I fell in, I'll just be completely open with you. The trap that I fell into, there's something I am not called to do. I am absolutely not called to do. Something I do typically whenever I'm alone, nobody else around. And I made the mistake doing it around my wife. She's never let me forget. And she's going, when are you going to do that at church? Hey, when are you going to do that at church? Yeah, she's turning purple right now because she knows. I said, I'm not called to do that. It's like, so I don't have to. I'll be honest with you guys. And she said, well, you're able to do it, so shouldn't you do it for Him anyway? I know, right? I know. Exactly. I'm telling you, we're in trouble. She's going to be the source of it. Whew. Lord have mercy. So whenever this happens, whenever, blame her. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, Lord. Let's move on before I get in any more trouble. Proverbs chapter 23. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 4 says, labor not to be rich, cease from thine own wisdom. Wilt thou set thine eyes upon that which is not, for riches certainly make themselves wings, they fly away as an eagle toward heaven. And then Romans chapter 13. Verse 7 says, render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom is due, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor. Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. You know, it's interesting whenever you start to research. Whenever certain topics were hit multiple times in the Bible, and how many times certain things were talked about. Finances came up a lot. A lot. It's like he knew that we would have problems with it. Crazy, right? Crazy that the God that created us and then set us loose goes, oh, they're going to have problems with that. I made shiny rocks, and now they are just gathering them up as fast as they can. I just thought of that one on the spot. But do you really want to break it down? That's exactly what happened. He made shiny rocks, and we have torn down mountains to get them. And that was just a split moment of slight genius right there. I don't know where that came from. Need a few more of those thoughts during the day. But we are. Something in us is just consumed by this. And you see all different sides of it, but it's all the finances, the money is the central core of it. You see people that have tons of it. They keep track of every dime spent. They could buy their own country, but they won't pay 50 cents for gum because they know that the store down the street charges 45 cents. Then you have the other exact opposite side. They're going to make $400 a week. They're $400,000 in debt, and they're looking at buying a boat. You know, I think I only need one kidney to live, right? I can sell one. I tell you what, I really need that bass boat, and I can make it with one kidney. All right, you know what? We can do this. We can do this. Salesman, start the paperwork. You have both sides of it, and then everything in between. Just consumed. But the world has become a pusher, an enabler, feeder. You have to have this. You can't function without this. You need this. I'm going to be real honest. I really don't care if I have a phone. But the world has made it to where I have to. And it's not the sales pitch. I'm expected to be able to be reached at any point, at any time of any day. How many other things can you think of in your lifetime that used to be a luxury, then just became commonplace, and now you just can't even go without it and function? You can't fulfill your own job without it. My dad was a truck driver, and he didn't have a cell phone. He had a little card, and he'd stop at a payphone. And right now, I'm glad I'm in a room full of adults, because teenagers go, "What's a payphone?" I'm not old enough to be able to say stuff like that. I was talking with my mother-in-law yesterday, and I said, depends on what age we're talking about. I said, if we're talking physically, it's 70. Mentally, I'm 15. But somehow, if you average everything out, I'm 35. But I can't believe certain things have changed. You can't find a payphone now. If you don't have your cell phone, you're in trouble. You're not going to walk to a gas station and be able to hop on a phone and call for help. Our attitude towards stewarding our treasure is a spiritual matter, and it has eternal consequences. We must make wise choices with our money and finances, contemplating how and when we make purchases, living according to God's will and within our means. And I highlighted this. Wise stewards prioritize giving and set a budget and live within their means. It's all three. It's that middle ground between the person that has more than enough. They obviously can set a budget, but they won't let go of anything. And the person that has spent way beyond, but they can't stop spending. We have to find that middle ground. Where can I provide for myself, my family, but still making charity a priority? Tithing, Malachi 3 and 10. Malachi 3 and 10 says, "Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat in mine house. And prove me now, herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there shall be room enough to not be room enough to receive it." That is a promise from God. A true, genuine promise. If you will be faithful in tithes, see that I don't pour out a blessing that you can't even fully receive it. Deuteronomy 16 and 17, then we'll talk some more. Can't grab it. Here we go. Every man shall give as he is able, according to the blessing of the Lord thy God, for which he hath given thee. So, we're going to talk about tithing and offering, because they are separate. We always say tithes and offering. And I think a lot of people misunderstand that while one is a set amount and another is a free will or a nondescript amount that is willingly given, it's often forgotten that both are required. See, the tithe is set forth as you will do this in faithfulness to take care of my temple. The second is a challenge from God. How much are you going to give having faith that I can give it back? We'll get into that. Let's go. We have a mandate from the word of the Lord to give tithes. The Lord instructed us to bring in our 10% and prove Him. We have been challenged by God to return 10% of our income to Him via the storehouse. The storehouse is the church. Keep in mind, everything that we have ultimately comes from God. We can work, pick up our check, and process it at the bank, feeling as though it's our money. But the funds are only a result of God giving us the strength to work and blessing us with the income through aid of another source. Now in offerings, Moses directed the children of Israel to give according to how God had blessed them. The more blessings, the more you give, and it's a continual cycle. And Jesus said in Luke 6:38, "Give and it shall be given unto you." I should have marked this down, but I didn't. I love the story of the children of Israel giving their offering for the temple. So they should start giving. They're already giving their tithes. This is the offering. They wanted to build the temple. They wanted to set roots. And so it was just decreed, hey, we're here. We're in the promised land. Give offerings for the temple. Then they filled the storehouses. They built some more storehouses. And they filled those. And I just get this mental image of some building and there's just gold like sliding underneath the store, and there's some priest trying to shove it closed with his shoulder, and he finally says, "All right, somebody tell them stop giving. We can't take anymore." Think about that for a second. It never said that Israel was built on top of a gold mine. They had conquered this land flowing with milk and honey, which was a beautiful farmland, a beautiful location that God had blessed them with. But somehow, these slaves walked around for 40 years in a desert, brought up a new generation. They come into this land, start conquering it, and they can't even build barns big enough for the offering to hold everything. Tithes and offerings are not an afterthought for the Christian. We give to God first, when we do so, He takes care of us and returns our gifts with blessings, sometimes financial and sometimes in other ways. Let me see if I saved that. I think I've got this in here. Yes, I did. Thank the Lord for good thinking last night. Luke chapter 6 and verse 38. Says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that you meet withal, it shall be measured to you again." So that is, again, another promise with a challenge. Give, and it will be given. in the same manner. So if it's, okay, let me do 15 calculations here. And, okay, let me think about, do I have to give this? That's how your blessing comes back to you. Don't you want God to be sitting there going, hey, send something else? They keep giving. Hey, keep going. Hey, I know that the other one hasn't come back yet. Send them something else. They're still giving. Let's make the priest tell them to stop. Because I'm not going to stop pouring it out to them. James chapter 4. I've got to come up with a better method for marking my Bible. There we go. James chapter 4 and verse 14 says, whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. And then Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 15 says, see then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Wherefore be ye not unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is. And we talked about this at the beginning. Okay? Live like God could come back tomorrow. But at the same point, live like you're going to be serving Him for the next 50 years. So, at no point take your time for granted. Be ready at any moment. The scripture says, be instant. Instant in prayer. That's instant in being able to get into the presence of God. Well, at the same point,